Hidden Figures Chapter 2 Mobilization. There was no escaping the heat in the summer of 1943, not in the roiling seas of the South Pacific, not in the burning skies over Hamburg and Sicily, and not for the group of Negro women working in Camp Pickett's laundry boiler plant. The temperature and humidity inside the army facility were so intense that slipping outdoors into the 100+ degrees of the Central Virginia June summer invited relief. The laundry room was both one of the war's obscure crannies and a microcosm of the war itself, a sophisticated, efficient machine capable of processing 18,000 bundles of laundry each week. One group of women loaded soiled laundry into the enormous boilers, others heaved the sopping clothes into the dryers. Another team worked the pressing machines like cooks at a giant griddle. 32-year-old Dorothy Vaughan stood at the sorting station, reuniting wayward socks and trousers with the laundry bags of the black and white soldiers who came to Camp Pickett by the trainload for 4 weeks of basic training before heading on to the port of embarkation in Newport News. Small talk of husbands, children, lives back home, or the ever-present war rose above the thunder and hum of the giant laundry boilers and dryers. We gave him a real nice send-off. Whole neighborhood turned out. Just as well you can't get stockings nowhere, hot as it is. That Mr. Randolph Shaw is something and friends with Mrs. Roosevelt too. We brooded over the husbands and brothers and fathers heading into the conflict that was so far away from the daily urgencies of their lives in Virginia, yet so close to their prayers and their dreams. The majority of the women who found their way to the military laundry room had left behind jobs as domestic servants or as stemmers in the tobacco factories. The laundry was a humid inferno, the work as monotonous as it was uncomfortable. Laundry workers existed at the bottom of the war's Great Pyramid, invisible and invaluable at the same time. One aircraft industry executive estimated that each laundry worker supported 3 workers at his plants, with someone else to tend to their dirty clothing. Men and women on the production lines had lower rates of absenteeism. The laundry workers earned 40 cents an hour, ranking them among the lowest paid of all war workers. But with few job options available to them, it felt like a windfall. Only a week had elapsed between the end of the school year at Robert Rasmussen, the Negro High School in Farmville, Virginia, where Dorothy worked as a math teacher, and her first day of work at Camp Pickett. As a college graduate and a teacher, she stood near the top of what most Negro women could hope to achieve. Teachers were considered the upper level of training and intelligence in the race, a ground force of educators who would not just impart book learning but live in the Negro community and direct its thoughts and head its social movements. Her in-laws were mainstays of the town's Negro elite. They owned a barber shop, a pool hall, and a service station. The family's activities were regular fodder for the social column in the Farmville section of the Norfolk Journal and Guide, the leading Negro newspaper in the southeastern United States. Dorothy, her husband, Howard, and their 4 young children lived in a large, rambling Victorian house on South Main Street with Howard's parents and grandparents. In the summer of 1943, Dorothy jumped at the chance to head Camp Pickett and earn extra money during the school break. Though teaching offered prestige, the compensation was modest. Nationally, Virginia's white teachers ranked in the bottom quarter in public school salaries, and their black counterparts might earn almost 50% less. Many black teachers in the South gave lessons in 1 or 2 room schools that barely qualified as buildings. Teachers were called upon to do whatever was necessary to keep the schoolhouse clean, safe, and comfortable for pupils. They shoveled coal in winters, fixed broken windows, scrubbed dirty floors, and prepared lunch. They reached into their own threadbare purses when the schoolroom kitty felt short. Another woman in Another woman in Dorothy's situation might have seen taking the laundry job as unthinkable, regardless of the economics. Wasn't the purpose of a college degree to get away from the need to work dirty and difficult jobs? And the location of the camp, 30 miles southeast of Farmville, meant that she lived in worker housing during the week and got back home only on weekends. But the 40 cents an hour Dorothy earned as a laundry sorter bested what she earned as a teacher, and with 4 children, a summer of extra income would be put to good and immediate use. And Dorothy was of an unusually independent mind, impatient with the pretensions that sometimes accompanied the upwardly mobile members of the race. She did nothing to draw attention to herself at Camp Picket, nor did she make any distinction between herself and the other women. There was something in her bearing that transcended her soft voice and diminutive stature. Her eyes dominated her lovely caramel-hued face, almond-shaped, wide-set, intense eyes that seemed to see everything. Education topped her list of ideals. It was the surest hedge against a world that would require more of her children than white children, an attempt to give them less in return. The Negro's ladder to the American dream was missing rungs, with even the most outwardly successful blacks worried that at any moment the forces of discrimination could lay waste to their economic security. Ideals without practical solutions were empty promises. Standing on her feet all day in the sweltering laundry was an opportunity if the tumbled military uniforms bought new school clothes, if each sock made a down payment on her children's college educations. At night in the bunk of the workers' housing, as she willed a breeze to cut through the motionless night air, Dorothy thought of Anne, age 8, Madda, 6, Leonard, 3, and Kenneth, just 8 months old. Their lives and futures informed every decision she made. Like virtually every Negro woman she knew, she struggled to find the balance between spending time with her children at home and spending time for them, for her family, at a job. Dorothy was born in 1910 in Kansas City, Missouri. Her own mother died when Dorothy was just 2 years old, and less than a year later, her father, Leonard Johnson, a waiter, remarried. Her stepmother, Susie Peeler Johnson, worked as a charwoman at the Grand Union Station train depot to help support the family. She took Dorothy as her own daughter and pushed her to succeed, teaching and teaching the precocious girl to read before she entered school, which vaulted her ahead to grades. She also encouraged her daughter's natural musical talent by enrolling her in piano lessons. When Dorothy was 8, the family relocated to Morgantown, West Virginia, where her father accepted a job working for a successful Negro restaurateur. There she attended the Beechhurst School, a consolidated Negro school located around the corner from West Virginia University, the state's flagship white college. 7 years later, Dorothy reaped the reward for her hard work in the form of the valedictorian spot and a full tuition scholarship to Wilberforce University, the country's oldest private Negro college in Xenia, Ohio. The African Methodist Episcopal Sunday School Convention of West Virginia, which underwrote the scholarship, celebrated 15-year-old Dorothy in an 8-page pamphlet that it published and distributed to church members, lauding her intelligence, her work ethic, her naturally kind disposition, and her humility. This is the dawn of a life, a promise held forth. We who have been fortunate enough to guide that genius and help mold it, even for a little while, will look on with interest during the coming years, wrote Dewey Fox, the organization's vice president. Dorothy was the kind of young person who filled the Negro race with hope that its future Dorothy was the kind of young person who filled the Negro race with hope that its future in America would be more propitious than its past. At Wilberforce, Dorothy earned splendid grades and chose math as her major. When she was an upper-classman, one of Dorothy's professors at Wilberforce recommended her for graduate study in mathematics at Harvard University, in what would be the inaugural class for a master's degree in the subject. Harvard, based in Washington, D.C., was the summit of Negro scholarship. Albert Frank Cox and Dudley Weldon Woodard, the first two Negroes to earn doctorates in mathematics with degrees from Cornell and the University of Pennsylvania, respectively, ran the department. The white school's prejudice was the black school's windfall. With almost no possibility of securing a faculty position at a white college, brilliant black scholars like Cox and Woodard and W. E. B. Du Bois, the sociologist and historian who was the first Negro to receive a doctorate from Harvard, taught almost exclusively at Negro schools, bringing students like Dorothy into close contact with some of the finest minds in the world. Harvard University represented a singular opportunity for Dorothy, in line with the AME Scholarship Committee's lofty expectations. Possessed of an inner confidence that attributed no shortcoming either to her race or to her gender, Dorothy welcomed the chance to prove herself in a competitive academic arena. But the economic reality that confronted Dorothy when she came out of college and made graduate study seemed like an irresponsible extravagance. With the onset of the Great Depression, Dorothy's parents, like a third of all Americans, found steady work hard to come by. An extra income would help keep the household above water and improve the odds that Dorothy's sister might be able to follow her path to college. Dorothy, though only 19 years old, felt it was her responsibility to ensure that the family could make its way through the hard times, even though it meant closing the door on her own ambitions, at least for the moment. She opted to earn a degree in education and pursue teaching, the most stable career for a black woman with a college degree. Though an extensive grapevine, black colleges received calls from schools around the country requesting teachers, then dispatched their alumni to fill open positions in everything from tar paper shacks in the rural Cotton Belt to Washington, D.C.'s elite Denver High School. New educators hoped to teach in their major subject, of course, but would be expected to assume whatever duties were necessary. After graduation in 1929, Dorothy was sent forth like a secular missionary to join the Negro teaching force. Her first job, teaching math and English at a Negro school in rural Tams, Illinois, ended after her first school year. The depression-fueled collapse in cotton prices hit the area hard, and the school system simply shut its door, leaving no public education for the rural country's Negro students. She faced no better in her next posting in coastal North Carolina, where in the middle of the school year, the school ran out of money and simply stopped paying her. Dorothy supported herself and contributed to the family by working as a waitress at a hotel in Richmond, Virginia until 1931, when she got word of a job at the school in Farmville. It was no surprise that the newcomer with the beautiful eyes caught the attention of one of Farmville's most eligible bachelors. Tall, charismatic, and quick with a smile, Howard Vaughn worked as an itinerant bellman at luxury hotels, going south to Florida in the winter and north to upstate New York and Vermont in the summer. Some years he found work closer to home at the Greenbrier, the luxury resort in White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia, which was a destination for wealthy and fabulous people from around the world. Though her husband's work kept him on the road, Dorothy exchanged her traveling shoes for Farmville life and the routines of family, the stability of regular work and community. Still coming of age and entering the workforce in the depths of the Depression permanently affected Dorothy's worldview. She dressed plainly and modestly, spurned every extravagance, and never turned down the chance to put money in the bank. Though she was a member of Farmville's Beulah AME Church, it was the first Baptist church that enjoyed her piano playing coming esteemed piano playing come Sunday morning because they had hired her as their pianist. As the war intensified, the town post office was awash in civil service job bulletins, competing for the eyes of locals and college students alike. It was on a trip to the post office during the spring of 1943 that Dorothy spied the notice for the laundry job at Camp Pickett. But the word on another bulletin also caught her eye: mathematics. A federal agency in Hampton sought women to fill a number of mathematical jobs having to do with airplanes. The bulletin, the handiwork of Melvin Butler, and the NACA personnel department, was most certainly meant for the eyes of the white, well to do students at the all female state teachers' college there in Farmville. The laboratory had sent application forms, civil service examination notices, and booklets describing the NACA's work to the school's job placement offices, asking faculty and staff to spread the word about the open positions among potential candidates. This organization is considering a plan to visit certain women's colleges in this area and interview senior students majoring in mathematics, the laboratory wrote. It is expected that outstanding students will be offered position in this laboratory. Interviews that year yielded 4 new Farmville girls for the laboratory's computing section. Dorothy's house on the South Main sat down the street from the college campus. Every morning as she walked the 2 blocks to her job at Morton High School, a U-shaped building perched on a triangular block at the south end of town, she saw the State Teachers College co-eds with their books, disappearing into classrooms in this leafy sanctuary of a campus. Dorothy walked to school on the other side of the street, toeing the invisible line that separated them. It would no, it would it would no sooner have occurred to her that a place with so baroque a name as the Langley Memorial Aeronautical Laboratory would solicit an application from Negro women than that the white women at the college across the street would beckon her through the front doors of their manicured enclave. Black newspapers, however, worked relentlessly to spread the word far and wide about available ward jobs and exhorted their readers to apply. Some were dubbing Executive Order 8802 and the Fair Employment Practices Committee the most significant move on the part of the government since the Emancipation Proclamation. Dorothy's own sister-in-law had moved to Washington to take a job in the War Department. In the first week of May 1943, the Norfolk Journal and Guide published an article that would call to Dorothy like a signpost for the road not taken, paving the way for women engineers. Paving the way for women engineers, read the headline. The accompanying photo showed 11 well-dressed Negro women in front of Hampton Institute's Bemis Laboratory, graduates of engineering for women, a war training class. Founded in 1868, Hampton Institute had grown out of the classes held by the free Negro teacher Mary Peake. In the shade of a majestic tree known as the Emancipation Oak. On the eve of World War II, Hampton was one of the leading Negro colleges in the country and the focal point of the black community's participation in the conflict. The women had come from points up and down the East Coast and from right there in town. Pearl Bassett, one of several Hampton natives, was the daughter of a well-known black lawyer, her family tracing its roots back to the early days of the city. Ophelia Taylor, originally from Georgia, graduated from Hampton Institute and prior to starting the class was running a nursery school. Mary Cherry came from North Carolina, Minnie McGraw from South Carolina, Madeline Glenn from faraway Connecticut, Miriam Mann, a tiny firebrand who had taught school in Georgia, had come to the city with her family when her husband William accepted a position as an instructor teaching machine shop at the U.S. Naval Training School at Hampton Institute. There were black jobs, and there were good black jobs. Sorting in the laundry, making beds in white folks' houses, stemming in the tobacco plant, those were black jobs. Owning a barber shop or a funeral home, working in the post office or riding the rails as a Pullman porter, those were good black jobs. Teacher, preacher, teacher, preacher, doctor, lawyer. Now those were very good black jobs, bringing stability and the steam that accompanied formal training. But the job at the aeronautical laboratory was something new, something so unusual it had not yet entered the collective dreams. Not even the long stalled plan to equalize Negro teachers' salaries with those of their white counterparts could beat this opportunity. Even if the war ended in 6 months or a year, a much higher salary, even for that brief time, would bring Dorothy that much closer to assuring her children's future. So, that spring, Dorothy Vaughan carefully filled out and mailed two job applications. One to work at Camp Pickett, where the need for labor was so great, so undifferentiated, that there was virtually no possibility that they would not hire her. The other, much longer application reviewed her qualifications in detail: work history, personal references, school attended, high school and college, courses taken, grades received, language spoken, French, which she had studied at Wilberforce, foreign travels, none. Would you be willing to accept a position abroad? No. Would you be willing to accept a position in Washington, D.C.? Yes. How soon could you be ready to start work? She knew the answer before her fingers carved it into the blank. 48 hours, she wrote. I can be ready to go within 48 hours. Thank you for watching my video. For more such videos, please subscribe my channel.